Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I can see 17 so that's good. हाँ जी पहले तो anybody who found it an issue to do the drafting that I'd asked you to do. Anybody who has any problem in doing the homework of sorts that we had discussed? If anybody found it a problem, we can take that up first, and otherwise we'll continue. See, and the fact that I really don't have any means to correct it should not lead to you not doing it at all. अगर तो हमारी actual physical classes होती, then I would have made sure that whoever has not shown me the work for the previous class does not get to attend the new class. And I see no real reason why I should ask you to show me a typed copy of it, because in your end term examinations, we don't really have to make you practice doing it with the pen and paper, actually do the drafting yourself. With that habit, we have to get you to in more and more practice of that um, actual drafting of these petitions. तो जो है आपका खुद से करिए. Please maintain a register of it. If and when we do, if you are lucky enough and you do have classes resuming, physical classes resuming this semester, we'll just have to wait and watch. Nobody has any clarity on that कि या classes resume होंगी. I have no idea right now, but if we do have physical classes resuming, then I would want to see these registers. So that's for then. But right now, I mean, you're all in third year. You should be diligent enough. It's for your own benefit. I don't need to harp upon that. क्योंकि end of the year exam आपको देना है, मुझे नहीं देना है. So let's just, it's a very simple paper. ड्राफ्टिंग प्लीडिंग में कभी किसी स्टूडेंट को ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम नहीं देखी है, but with this little exercise it becomes even simpler. So I would encourage you all to do that little homework of sorts that you've been given, and then we see that it becomes very easy. And of course, when you have a practical question with you, and the questions that I'm giving you are from your end term examination question papers only, तो आपको अच्छा idea हो जाता है that if this is the topic we've discussed, this is the kind of question we can expect in December. So then खत्म है हमारा, हमने उसकी ड्राफ्टिंग एक बार करके देख ली, हमें कोई अगर प्रॉब्लम दिक्कत आई तो हमने मैम से पूछ लिया, एंड देन यू रियलाइज दैट इट बिकम्स वेरी वेरी इजी. So let's just do that exercise, please. And diligently, you're all adults, you're not children. You have to realize the importance of it yourself, right? I will keep giving you those questions, and I need you to be diligent and take it forward, right? Okay. Now we
Ma'am, I had a
can.
question.
हाँ जी बोलो. बोलो.
Ma'am, so basically, when there is a legal notice which is issued, like because it was a check bounce case, so legal notice issued the original copy of the check. So we write annexure 1 or annexure 2.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
So basically, in the real plaint, जो annexures होते हैं वो बाद में हम लोग नीचे like वो तो पीछे mentioned होते हैं. But here, what we have to do? लाइक उसको हम बस नीचे मेंशन करें या साथ में ही मेंशन करते हैं?
नहीं बच्चे, पैराग्राफ के अंदर आएगा. सो सपोजिंग आपने एनेक्स्चर लगाया, सो इन योर फैक्ट्स इफ यू आर स्टेटिंग दैट बाय ऑन सच एंड सच डेट द बैंक did not accept the check or refused the check, a copy of which, then you will say a copy of which is annexed herewith and marked as annexure A. ठीक है, in your plaint itself, in your plaint, it's a good idea. In your plaint where you are stating this fact that your check has that the defendant's check has bound कि इसका सी, we do want, the examiner does want you to tell the examiner कि आपको पता है इस plaint के साथ क्या क्या annexures जाने चाहिए, right? So you have to make your case stronger. So if definitely if it's a check bouncing case, then you should add the check, a copy of the check should go as an annexure. तो जहां पर वो कॉपी ऑफ द चेक की बात हो रही है, वहां पर आप लिखिए दैट द चेक डेटेड सो एंड सो, एंड ब्रैकेट में लिखो कॉपी ऑफ विच इज as annexure 1 or annexure A, right? So it's a very good idea to put it right there in the paragraph that you are talking about the check. So that check
Okay,
numbering
ma'am.
should be there.
And ma'am, one more
Yes.
question that,
हाँ.
for example, the sample which is there in the case mat, it is talking about a private limited company. Now, for example,
Yes.
it's a transaction between individuals and then there's a
Hmm.
check bounce. So,
बिल्कुल.
while we'll describe that the plaintiff or the defendant, we'll only write the son of, right? We'll not like,
बिल्कुल.
for example,
हाँ.
okay.
हाँ. Right. Right. So individual capacity, then Mr. A, son of Mr. B, resident of such and such place. That you can write.
Okay,
Right?
thank you, ma'am.
हाँ. ठीक है, so very good. सांची ने काम किया है. That shows that you have taken the pains to do the work that I've given you. Very good. I'm very happy, सांची, कि आपने किया है. Anybody else who faced any problem while doing the drafting of that case? And see what you have also gathered from those of you who attempted the question. You've also gathered that build yourself. ठीक है, थोड़े फैक्ट्स आपको खुद से डालने पड़ते हैं. Your case, your question in your examination, in your end term examinations, may or may not give you the facts, right? On some occasions, you will see it will be as simple as stating draft out a petition for check bouncing on assumed facts. तो आपके जो मैंने आपको क्वेश्चन दिया था उसमें तो थोड़े बहुत फैक्ट्स फिर भी दिए गए थे, but sometimes it can be as simple and assumed facts, draft this petition. So there also, that doesn't mean कि अगर question paper में facts आपको नहीं दिए गए हैं, that you will clearly come to the law point straight away. No, you will have to use your imagination, build a few facts. So in every petition that you draft, you will see that the first 4-5 paragraphs will be factual, and then the last 4-5 paragraphs will be the legal points. So you will have to use your imagination to add in the facts as and when your question is silent on it. And if you have to, of course, then you have to capture the facts in your plaint. Right?
Ma'am, one more question
Yes,
was
yes.
there.
हाँ
Ma'am,
बोलो.
I don't know whether it's material or not, but when there was a check bounce, like when he went to the bank and the bank informed him that it's a check bounce, so I
Yes.
wrote a point that on receipt of this information, plaintiff was shocked and felt cheated. So whether it's
बिल्कुल.
okay, we
Yes. Yes, yes. So you are creating the, it is material for you to state that there has been cheating, there has been person has intentionally done this. That's what you're trying to say. Because you, after all, at the end of the day, you have to justify the prayers that you are asking for, right? So you have to justify always, in your plaint, get to the extreme. That's a course that litigating lawyers also follow. That let's ask for the moon, so at least we'll get the trees, and we will not have to settle for just the soil. So ask for the maximum and let the court some intentional cheating and so on. So you want to create that picture in the mind of the court that this was done to defeat the purpose of paying you money, and it's not something that has happened by mere oversight. That's what you're building your case upon. And if that helps you to get all the remedies that you have prayed for in your prayer clause, so the more the better. बिल्कुल आप डाल सकते हैं उसको. No problem on
okay.
that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, I
Yes.
had one doubt.
हाँ जी बोलो.
Ma'am, what is
बोलो.
the extent of legal fiction that we can create? So, for example, in the question
Yes.
that you gave us, you gave us the names of two individuals. So, can
Yes.
we make them directors of a company, and through them, can we like sue the company, or do we have to like stick to the
No, 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 no,
names
no.
of the individual that you have given?
No, yes. So, Tanishka, very good that you raised this question. See, if the names of the people involved are given to you in your question paper, then please stick to the same names, and जो आपको already दिया गया है, do not alter it. That's not what I meant by building your facts. You have to stick to everything given to you in your question paper. However, if your question is silent on some aspects, right? If your question is silent on some aspects, that's where you can use your own creation to add in the facts. But जो already दिया गया है उस should you do that? So if it's people, individuals, then keep them as people, keep them as individual people. Don't assume that it's a company and so on. नहीं, then why don't you build up your facts to say that you had a contract by means of which you performed your part of the contract, and then thereafter that person, Mr. B, was supposed to make you the payment. You asked for the payment, and this is how you got the payment in the form of a check, and then the check bounced. So build your case on individual people. Then a breach has happened, or no, not a breach, a fulfillment of your part of the contract has happened, and the payment has been made in the manner of a check format. ठीक है ना? तो companies की जगह individual लोग भी तो contract कर सकते हैं about doing certain events.
That exactly what I did, but I was just asking just in case we can like do.
नहीं, इतना हम जो already हमें दिया गया है, we will not alter that. That we will not alter.
Okay.
हाँ. Yes. Anybody else? कुछ बोल रहा था कोई?
In the case of individuals, then we'll not require that affidavit, right?
जाएगा, बिल्कुल जाएगा. Affidavit तो बिल्कुल जाएगा for you to state that जो ऊपर लिखा गया, आप verification भी करेंगे and affidavit भी डालेंगे. Affidavit will go in every case, whether you are filing in your individual capacity or you are a managing director who's been authorized. Affidavit has to go with the plaint. Of course, the terminology used will change. You will not say in my capacity of a such and such as a managing director or रहेगी, but you will state that I am giving this affidavit to state that whatever has been given in this as best is to my knowledge, that the council's instructions that I have received are true. जैसे यहाँ पे इनका point number 2 देखिए, I say that the accompanying suit has been drafted and filed by my counsel upon my instructions. So even if you are an individual person in your individual capacity, तो ये बात तो has been drafted and filed by my counsel upon my instructions and contents of the same are true and correct. तो ये तो आप फिर भी बोलेंगे. आपको affidavit में ये भी बात बोले. It really doesn't matter if you are an individual person or you're a authorized signatory of a company. The fact you have to state this, that the documents filed with the plaintiff are true copies of the originals and so on, right? So affidavit bilkul jayega. It does not alter anything. If you are an individual person or you're a company, it doesn't change much.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Hanji. Yes. Anybody else? Anybody else who had an issue with regard to that? Okay, now we start with the next topic, next set of drafting that we have to do. The first of which is a suit for permanent injunction. So what are you looking for in this suit that you are drafting? You are wanting a permanent relief from the court, a permanent injunction order by the court. And when you read the facts of this case, you will see that you're asking somebody to not interfere with the peaceful possession of a property that you have. Right? So one of you was asking about what if I'm an individual in my individual capacity, तो यहाँ पर क्या लिखेंगे, right? So here that question is answered because we don't have any companies here. There are individuals here who are fighting this case. So here you see that Shri Omveer Singh का आगे आप लिखेंगे son of so and so, resident of so and so place, plaintiff. Versus if you have more than two, then this is how one after the other you can write their names and son of so and so, residents of so and so. So if you have people in individual capacity, this is how you draft it. And if there is a company, then you say through such and such person, the authorized signatory, and so on. Okay. Now what do you see here? It's a suit for permanent injunction. Like I said, it's a suit for permanent injunction. So you're asking for a permanent relief. And you were going to state in capitals from the left margin, you will say most respectfully show it in capitals. That's how that's the process we follow. And then on every paragraph, isn't it? You see that, and why is that? Because अगर हम ऊपर बोल रहे हैं, most respectfully showeth. Then we want to say most respectfully showeth what? Most respectfully showeth that I'm the plaintiff and I am a resident of so and so. That I'm most respectfully sure that I'm the tenant, or most respectfully sure that this is the amount of money to be paid for construction, and so on. So every sentence here is starting is most respectfully sure that, right? Okay. Then again, what you will see is the initial, in every suit, what do you see? The initial paragraphs are giving you the factual position, right? So if you're, like I said, if your question paper gives you the facts, very good, stick to the facts and list out those facts. If your question paper does not give you the facts, then build your own facts and state the facts. Stating of facts is very important. So first 4-5 paragraphs on the facts, and then the latter 4-5 paragraphs on the law points. That's again what we will see in this okay, let's see the facts of this case. यहाँ पर problem क्या है? That the plaintiff is the permanent resident of the above mentioned address. So this is the address where the plaintiff stays in the property bearing numbers such and such, New Delhi, for the last many years, and is living with his wife and minor children as tenants. So that you've made it clear here that the address is given, the fact that the plaintiff is the tenant, ये आपने बता दिया. Then what you're going to say in point number 2, again a factual position, but since it's a material, if is a tenant in respect of the above said property bearing so and so number, consisting of rooms, kitchen of the above said premises, rent कितना था वो आपने बता दिया, excluding water, electricity आपका rent इतना था, and it was under the tenancy of late Shri Mr. X. Don't really leave it blanks, in your question paper, because so many times you'll have to write this Shri. So why leave it as Shri blank? Just say Shri X or Shri Y, whatever. So you're saying that the original and one Mr. Shri X, who died on this date, and late Shri X used to collect the rent from the plaintiff. But late Shri X did not issue any rent receipts to the plaintiff. Even after several demands made by the plaintiffs, he used to always say that he was to postpone the giving of the rent receipts. So that you are making it clear that possession aapke paas hai. You were rightfully paying the rent also to this person, Shri X, and after he has died, okay, that will come forward, that after he pay the rent to. That comes next. But here in this paragraph, you've told them that rent receipts nahi hai aapke paas, because you used to make this request, but he never really gave you the rent receipts. Okay, then again a factual position that you are stating in point number 3, that the plaintiff spent a huge amount on the construction of 2 rooms of the above premises. So even though you're a tenant, you have constructed 2 rooms, and this was this arrangement that the late Mr. Shri assured that the plaintiff that it will be adjusted in the rent amount. The plaintiff is having necessary proofs, documents of material for construction of rooms of the above said property. It is also pertinent to mention here that the plaintiff looked after Shri X many times whenever he fell ill. So this is where you're creating the picture in the mind of the judge that you're not just a tenant, you have bhi karna tha rent mein, and you looked after Mr. Shri X, and then he's died, and then what happens? Again, a factual point number 4, that at present the plaintiff is having peaceful possession of the premises. यहाँ पे देखो spelling mistakes हैं, ऐसी गलती नहीं करनी है आपने case mat में. You have to be conscious of all such small mistakes. So the plaintiff is having peaceful possession of the property and is having whole necessary documents record regarding the possession, which is in the form of ration card, school card, enclosed herewith. Herewith, we can say enclosed herewith and marked as annexure A. We can do that. So that is something which you can keep in mind, that instead of just saying photocopy ration card enclosed herewith matlab what? Enclosed herewith and marked as annexure 1 or annexure A, actually that's how you should write it down. But the above said defendants are intended to disturb the peaceful possession of the plaintiff of the above said premises. So you have stated possession, and these defendants are disrupting your peaceful possession. And that's why you're asking for permanent injunction that the court should interfere and should stop those defendants from interfering with your peaceful possession. That the plaintiff is having whole necessary household goods which are lying kept in the above premises and is living peacefully. So not only are you living there, but all your goods are also there. That the plaintiff has paid the X up to October 13. So October 13 is when the person dies. And here it is also pertinent to mention here that the legal heirs of Shri X are not in the knowledge of the plaintiff. And at present also the plaintiff is ready to tender the rent before the legal heirs of Shri X. So you have said clearly कि आपने रेंट दिया है 2013 अक्टूबर तक, उनकी डेथ हो गई, उसके बाद who is the rightful owner of the property that you're not aware of, and once you are told about who the owner is, you rightful owner of the property. So that is what you are stating there in that clause. And then what happens? Then you are stating, okay, so now that you have created that picture in the mind of the judge that you are staying on the property rightfully so because you were a lessee and you had the right to stay on the property, and that some arbit person is interfering with your peaceful possession. ये आपने बता दिया. But then, is it a reason fit enough for you to run to the court straight away, by means of which you should make a complaint to the police to say that such and such person is unnecessarily disrupting my peaceful possession. He's coming knocking on the doors, asking for eviction of the property, throwing my goods out of the house, whatever your facts are. Right? So ideally speaking, you should be approaching the police. Why are you bypassing the police and straight away running to the court? So therefore, that is the reason why in this plaint you see that the petitioner is going to make it clear that he did approach the police also. So that factual position or plaint that you have approached the police and still nothing's really happened. So what do we see here? That on such and such date, the above defendant came to the above said premises of the plaintiff and threatened the plaintiff to vacate the tenanted premises immediately. तो आपको threat दिया उन्होंने, and otherwise the plaintiff would face dire consequences, and the plaintiff asked about the identity. They did not disclose the same. Instead started throwing household goods forcibly and illegally. When the resident neighbors intervened in the matter, the defendants left the spot, threatening of dire consequences and to dispossess the plaintiff forcibly, illegally in the near future with the help of local gundas. Defendants openly stated that the staff of the police Metala dances to the tune, and at every it is very easy for them to dispossess the person or to grab the property. So you're creating that picture in the mind of the judge that these defendants are really hand in glove with the police, and that even though you get their way with the police. So point number 8 mein aap dekhoge, they are going to the petitioner is stating that he did go to the police. Immediately on the same day, the plaintiff rushed to the police post Matiala to lodge his report against the defendant regarding such incident, but duty officer did not lodge the report of the plaintiff. The plaintiff was surprised to see that both the defendants were already present in the police post Matiala. So that also you are making it clear. Your further went to the police, but nothing really happened after that. Okay, then what happens chronologically? Next date डालेंगे, फिर आप बोलेंगे that the plaintiff sent a registered notice to the defendant number 1 and a copy to the Chowki in charge police post Matiala. Copy of the same is enclosed herewith, and you can put in here even though it's not mentioned and marked as annexure B. ऐसे आप लिख सकते हैं यहाँ पर. But police post Matiala staff has not taken any action against the defendant for reasons best known to them. So again, the police is not helping you out. You're going to stay. Okay, then what happens? On February 10th, you're going and giving this notice. Then on the very next day, on 11th of Feb, you're stating that the defendants, along with unknown persons whom the plaintiff can recognize by face, came to the above said premises. Uttam Nagar knocked on the door at odd hours, threatened the plaintiff to come out of the room. Plaintiff saw their faces from the gaps of the door. Plaintiff got nervous, therefore did not come out of the two-room apartment. The said person threatened the plaintiff to vacate the premises immediately. However, the neighbors gathered there and they from the above said premises forcibly, illegally. When the neighbors threatened, they left the spot with a threat to come after 1 or 2 days with heavy force to dispossess the plaintiff from the above said premises forcibly, illegally. So ये सारे facts की बात हो रही है यहाँ पे. There's really no real explanation required. You've got to build on your facts. So supposing, also what should help you to understand facts कितने बताएं, कितना detail में जाना है. So definitely from the examination point of view, if it is, then you should, go in greater details of your facts and, maybe lengthen it a little bit. If it's a 10 marker, then you really don't have to go in such great depth as far as your facts are concerned. पर अगर इतना lengthy हम बता रहे हैं हमको, तो this counts for a 20 marker answer. Okay, so 10th को क्या हुआ आपने बताया, 11th को क्या हुआ आपने बताया, chronologically the very next day. 12th को क्या हुआ, the plaintiff again went to the police post defendant, but no police officer is ready to listen against the defendant, and they advise the plaintiff to approach the competent court of law to seek his remedy, to get an injunction order against the defendant and the police station Matyalpa. So now you are stating from here, you are stating the law points. So this is how each of your plaints will look like. It will start with the factual points and then it will come to the legal points. So what are the legal points? That the plaintiff has no other efficacious remedy except to approach this honorable court for seeking relief of injunction against the defendant from interfering in the peaceful possession of the premises. And then, if you recollect, this is something this is a law point which you will find will be there in every suit. So this is something which you have to keep a note of. अगर ये paragraph आप नहीं डालेंगे, तो आपके marks कट सकते हैं. And what is this paragraph? The fact that you are well within. When does the cause of action arise? When does the cause of action start? When does the cause of action finish? So in this case, of course, it's a continuing cause of action. And why is it continuing in this case? Because the threat is a continuing threat. The defendants can come any day and dispossess you of the property, throw your goods outside, or threaten you of dire consequences, asking for eviction, and so on. So in this particular case, it's very simple that it's a whole point of limitation में है या limitation period के बाहर है, that is not a problem really here because it's a continuing cause of action. So one paragraph in all your suits should capture the fact that you are well within the limitation period. You have to justify to the court that you are within the limitation period, and that's what your point number 13 here will help you come to that conclusion. So what do they say here? That the cause of action arose on different dates with the defendant threatened. The action कब arise हुआ जब वो पहली बार आपको threaten किया उन्होंने. And then they threatened you again on such and such date, and that the cause of action lastly arose on 11th February when the defendant again threatened and dispossessed you of the property. And then, one line of such a nature should be there, that the cause of action still subsists as the threat to the defendant to dispossess the plaintiff and to create disturbance of the peaceful possession continues, because this is obviously a continuing cause of action. So therefore, it's a continuing threat that you have over your head. Right? So this is something that we spoke about in our previous petition pleading also, and this is something we are capturing here. Also, one more legal point that you have to always keep in mind, a small date that you have to capture always. And then the jurisdiction of the court, that is also again something which should be well documented. And that's what you read in point number 15 here, where they say that the honorable court has jurisdiction to entertain this suit because the part of the cause of action arose at Delhi and the suit property is situated within the territorial jurisdiction of the honorable court. So this is something which you always do keep in mind. Ye 3 points, as you start drafting more and more, it will automatically come to you कि jurisdiction की बात हमने करनी है, कोर्ट फीस की हमेशा बात करनी है, लिमिटेशन की बात करनी है, कब शुरू हुआ, कब खत्म हुआ. That should always be there in your petitions. And then, of course, you come to the prayer clause. And in the prayer, also remember, you will obviously ask here in this case, since it's a permanent injunction restraining the defendants from interfering with the peaceful possession of property. You can ask for award of cost of the suit because you're paying some money, you're paying out of your pocket because of the acts of the defendant. So if you want that kind of reimbursement, you should. And like I said, as a lawyer for your client, you should ask for the moon, and you can settle for something which the court does or does not give you. So here also, of course, you're asking for permanent injunction, but what about the money that so award cost of the suit in favor of the plaintiff and against the defendants, that can be your second prayer. And this, the third one, like I said, this will also always be there in all your petitions. You'll ask for any such further orders that the court feels fit and proper on the facts and circumstances of the case. So this is how your suit for permanent injunction should read. पहले facts की बात की है आपने, and towards the latter part of it, you have spoken about. So this is how we go about drafting our permanent injunction suit, and then we will. Okay, so we've drafted the suit, we've asked for the prayer, and the verification clause we're already aware of. The verification clause is going to be similar to what you've seen earlier. The verification clause is going to say para this to para this is to the best of my knowledge, and para the legal points, jahan pe bhi aapke facts hain, that you can give an assurance for because you're the plaintiff. So those factual paragraphs को आप बोलेंगे that these are best true to my knowledge, and the legal ones you're going to say that these are based on the information that I believe to be true. So that is how you're going to state your verification clause, and it has to be supported by an affidavit. So when you are going to attempt your examination, remember, you always remember that affidavit साथ में आपको डालना ही डालना है. So nobody needs to really tell you that separately the permanent injunction, but it needs to be supported by an affidavit. तो affidavit आपने एक दो बार लिख लिया है, practice कर लिया है, तो वो यहाँ पर fit करना मुश्किल नहीं है. Okay. But this is, like we've seen, this is a suit for permanent injunction. This the court is going to hear the full case and then decide whether who's right, who's wrong, and whether they need to give you the remedy that you've asked for or not. But do you think that pending this suit, a grave injury can be caused of this suit? It is possible for the defendant to come up and disrupt you from your peaceful possession. ये हो सकता है. We just put these facts in perspective, and we say that if we say that during the pendency of the suit, what has happened? The defendant has actually come and the defendant has come and disrupted you from peaceful possession. So do we have any remedy available from what you can recollect? Is there anything that we can do to make sure that pending litigation, तो ये तो हमारा permanent injunction का suit है, during the pendency of this suit, how do we then does not disrupt us from our peaceful possession? Anyone has any knowledge of this?
We can apply for or file a suit for temporary injunction.
Yes.
In case.
So very good. So Tanishka, that's you speaking. So Tanishka is very correct. Remember, from your examination perspective also, if they're asking you for a permanent injunction, immediately it should strike you. Facts को थोड़ा perspective में डालो. Facts को perspective में डालोगे तो आपको पता चलेगा, okay, we're asking these defendants not to disrupt us from our peaceful possession. But nowhere in our prayer clause or nowhere through the petition have we said what if they disrupt us from our peaceful possession during the pendency of the suit. So for that, like you've rightly identified, so it won't be a suit really, it will be an application because suit to आपने already file कर दिया है, which is the suit for permanent injunction. But remember, it needs to be followed with an application for temporary injunction, and that's your Order 39, Rule 1 and 2 of the CPC, and read with the inherent powers under 151 of the CPC. So 151 you will see that will come in handy a lot many times because that's the inherent power of the courts. तो वो आप बहुत जगह देखेंगे 150 read with section 151 of the CPC, ऐसे आप बहुत देखेंगे. So this is an example of how application for temporary injunction should read like. Of course, you've already filed the suit, so the whole factual matrix you don't need to repeat because at the end of the day, you're going back to the same. You have filed for permanent injunction. You're in the same court. You're going to file an application for temporary injunction to make sure that during the pendency of the case, nobody really disrupts you from your peaceful possession. So you're going back to the same court. You will not duplicate the whole factual matrix, but you will just briefly state that a permanent injunction suit has already been filed. And for the sake of brevity, we're not going to repeat the whole fact. So that needs to be captured, but pura ka pura facts are here. Since I said it's an application, you will say plaintiff/applicant. This, it's these are very small things, but this is what you're going to be actually scrutinized for, because जो भी आपका examination check कर रहा है needs to know that you're fully aware of what you're drafting. So this is an application, and that this plaintiff तो आप है ही, but in this situation you are also the applicant of the present application that is being filed, which is okay. Let's very quickly see what it should read like. Plaintiff has filed a suit for permanent injunction, which is pending disposal of this honorable court. So obviously, एक line ऐसी लिखनी जरूरी है to make the connection. That the contents of the accompanying suit for permanent injunction may kindly be read as part and parcel of this application, which are not repeated here for the sake of brevity. There's really no point in repeating the whole facts. Even in your examination, add in this one line and you are done as far as the facts are concerned. Okay. Then you will quickly say that the plaintiff has, ये line डालनी बहुत जरूरी है. You're going to say that the applicant has got a prima facie case in his favor and there is likelihood of success in the present case. That one line you really should add because you want to state that you have a good case. And it looks like in the end you're going to get the full remedy, but pending that suit, you need to be given some sort of relief, ad interim relief, pending litigation relief. Okay, then you say that in the defendants that in case the defendants are not restrained by means of ad interim injunction for dispossessing the plaintiff from the above premises, then from the interfering in the physical peaceful possession of the above said premises, the plaintiff shall suffer irreparable loss and injury. ये भी बात बतानी बहुत जरूरी है because at the end of the day you're asking for interim relief. The court is going to say right who's wrong, but you have to make your case stronger by stating that if we do not get this interim relief, the actual remedy might be a totally a fruitless exercise. Because if you put the facts in perspective in this case, तो क्या होगा? जब तक आपका permanent injunction का suit decide होगा, उसके बीच में आपको उठा के वहां से disrupt कर दिया गया है, your possession has been taken away. So really, you have to state that the actual purpose will not be achieved if this application is not entertained. So, things of such a nature have to be mentioned in your temporary injunction application. So that's what we're trying to do here when they say that the plaintiff an injury and the suit shall become fructuous and would lead to multiplicity of cases. So you're not really achieving any purpose if you don't give this relief, is